What up, dudes, and welcome to the first ever car files. I'm in the Yoda. I'm headed to work. I've been busy, but there are some topics that I've been wanting to talk about, and I figured what not a better spot to do it in than me heading to work. I got some dead time. So first up, let's talk about 2025 Topps Chrome UFC. We know it's coming out. The question is, when is it coming out? And I mean, it's basically June right now. We got what, 2 days as of filming this, 3 days as of filming this to determine if when it's going to come out. They still haven't given us the release date, or really like that teaser that they do. They give us the drop date, they give us some of the images, and I mean, it's got to happen sometime soon. Everyone seems to think it's a June. I did that little community post asking, what date do you think it's going to drop? When do you think it's going to drop? Most people were thinking June. That's what I also think. Sometime in June would make the most sense, in my opinion. Also, what is the price going to be for 25 Topps Chrome? I mean, we had $219 last year. Like, is it going to be $219? Is it going to be lower? I'm hoping that it's going to be a lower price. I mean, we saw Finest come out with on-card autos at the end of last year, significantly lower than $219. So I'm hoping that they can kind of push it down a little bit. Although this is kind of Topps is like flagship, one of their most famous brands, one of their most famous products. So fingers crossed, we'll see what it is. But in the comments below, as I'm talking about all these, kind of let me know what your thoughts are too, because I mean, basically everything is up in the air for this year, right? We do not know a lot of information. We're kind of just guessing at this point. It's a lot of guesswork, but it will be interesting to see, like what they do with Topps Chrome, what they do with other releases. And speaking of other releases, we have the 2025 Stadium Club. Just out of nowhere, out of the blue, randomly, Topps hits us with that on their website, that we're getting Stadium Club for UFC. I was like, what is Stadium Club? I had never heard of that before. I looked at some baseball products, and it looks to be for baseball. It was kind of looked to be like a little bit of a lower end product, kind of like a gold label-ish type, right? It didn't look like premium card stock. I was looking at some Reddit posts with people that have that product and what they thought of it. And that was kind of the consensus that I could come to, is that it will probably be similar to what gold label was like for us this year. One thing that I did like about it, though, is it is like border to border with the card. It is just a photo. So I know we haven't had that in a product in a long time, like just photography. So it will be interesting to see what kind of images they choose. Is that going to be a nice product? Is it going to be better than gold label? Because I would imagine they might use that as like one of the cheaper end products for this year. But we already know that we have, just from the leaks, we know we're getting Topps Chrome, we know we're getting Stadium Club, and from the leaks, I've seen Midnight, I've seen Finest, I've seen Knockout. So like we already have 5 products on the year. With them being so delayed, my other question is, are we just gonna get 5 products? Like, do they give us a 6th and kind of like hold it closer to the chest? What is the 6th gonna be? Is it gonna be royalty again? I mean, it seemed like they made a ton of money off royalty, right? So I would imagine they're probably gonna try and do that again, but we'll see. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, could we only get 5 this year? Is it gonna be lower than it was in 2025? I mean, that's definitely a possibility, right? Like, because they are so far behind. And they even had like a lot of products out somewhat early. I mean, they had like the leaks for Midnight and Topps Chrome have been around for months at this point. So they really were getting those out and shipped to the fighters to try and get those on-card autos pretty early. But do they try and use this year as like a catch-up year and only release 5 products? I think it'll be interesting to see, what they do with that. We touched on it briefly in the live a couple of weeks ago. And it was like, do we need to lower the amount of UFC events per month? So we're getting, basically a card every week. We get 1 pay-per-view a month, it's kind of been the average. And then we get a ton of fight nights, 3 fight nights, 1 every week. Are those fight nights good? Have they been good recently? I say no, they have not been good. I mean, we have Blanchfield versus Barber main eventing. Co-main below that would be Gamrot versus Klein. Of that entire card, those are the only 2 fights that are even remotely interesting to me. Is this just me? Is this other people out there? I feel like the amount of skunk cards, the amount of dud cards that we've had in the past like 3 months has just been astronomical. I mean, the cards, the UFC pay-per-views should be looking like UFC 300. Like, I feel like there's a lot of stars right now in the UFC. The welterweight is stacked, lightweight is stacked, bantamweight has a ton of good talent. You know, we have some up and coming guys that are really good, and it just seems like the cards are just very lackluster. Why is that? Like, and that's kind of what this video is about, right? Like, I think, do we need less pay-per-views per month in order to facilitate better quality cards? Do we need less fights on the prelims in order to facilitate better quality cards? Is there too many guys on the roster, and that's the reason that the quality of the event seems to be down a little bit? Like, we have prelims, we have the pre-prelims sometimes. I mean, what are some things that we can potentially do to make events more entertaining and more star-studded? I mean, obviously there's no off season, right? So this is going 365 days. The UFC, I guess they have a little break. What is it, around Christmas time? I think they take like a month off. And honestly, when they did that this year, the week that we had fights returning, I was actually like very, very hyped. And I think that absence is kind of like something that may need to happen if the events still continue to be like this. And I know the UFC wants to have an event every single week. It makes money. I completely understand business-wise. But just as a fan and as a consumer, would cutting one event per month, would that make these cards more star-studded? And I mean, yes, it would. The logical answer is obviously yes, it would. Because you could cut, you know, a bunch of filler out from one of the events. And usually there's, you know, 3, 4, 5 fights that are pretty compelling, pretty entertaining. If you put those, you know, that's basically 2 fights each that are going to be really good fights that you could add to the other 3 cards per month. I don't know how to solve this, and also I don't know if this is even a problem. So please, in the comments below, let me know, is this just me? Are you happy with how the events are right now? Do you think that you know, all the events have been really star-studded and you like the names that are on those? Or is it just me not being, you know, super excited about the names that I'm seeing, because obviously I have bias to certain fighters? But definitely let me know in the comments. And also, I had like, so would decreasing the events per month create better events? I think yes. But also, would decreasing the events 1 per month, would that help the fighters at all? Kind of an interesting thought experiment to think through. I don't know if it would help the fighters. I mean, I guess it would potentially limit the amount of fights that you could get. You may have to, you know, take dates that you wouldn't want. There wouldn't quite be as many slots. And then that made me thinking, so okay, so that's an issue, right? If we have 3 events per month, maybe we need to have like a UFC D League. And I know Damien on our live, when we broached this topic, he mentioned that, and I thought that was actually could be a really good idea. And basically, when I was thinking it out, I was like, okay, so we have the UFC, right? We have the main card. Maybe you even have a couple prelims before the main card, but you still want to get all those fights in, right? So how do we get all those fights in? You could even just have a potential like D League, right? A development league for guys that are just getting signed, guys that are up and coming, guys that, you know, are super young maybe, and you have them in the development league, and really the only difference would literally just be the title and the actual event. So instead of the prelims, we rebrand, it's still the UFC, right? But it'll just be the UFC like development or whatever they want to name it, right? Just a little bit of separation between the two, so you can still have you know, the hardcore fans tuning in to watch the development league, kind of like the Contender Series, right? Kind of like Tough, how it's kind of off to the side. It's still all the same thing. It's still all related within the UFC, but it's not necessarily tied to like the actual broadcasted same events or whatever. I don't know if that would be helpful. You could have it on a different day. Maybe you have it on like how they do Contender Series. Instead of just you know, 3 or 4 fights, you have a whole event on Wednesday. I don't know. But I was just trying to think of ways that you could still have the same amount of fights, but have the higher, like more star-studded fights, stacking those into cards more. and maybe lessening the amount of fights per event, per pay-per-view event as well. I don't know if that would be helpful. Am I just rambling with that idea? To me, for some reason, it kind of makes sense. I think it would also be a little bit easier to market the younger guys, right? So if you have a development league, you know, it's going to be a more shallow pool. You're not going to be getting pushed down to the bottom. You could be, you know, the biggest fish in that pond. The UFC could really push those guys. Maybe there's some type of belt in the development league like they did with Strikeforce, and then, you know, once you win that, then you get pushed up. I don't know, man. I'm just spitballing, but it does seem like maybe the issue here is not the amount of fights or the amount of events. Also, very realistically, the issue here could be that the UFC is not marketing these guys enough. And like, that is a very, very, very real possibility. Dana's too busy focusing on Power Slap. He's too busy, he's taking a lot of time to focus on cards, which I like, but when I look at the UFC Instagram page, it is covered with nonsense. Half of it is not even UFC fighting related. The best Instagram page, in my opinion, is ESPN MMA, which is crazy that ESPN's MMA coverage is better than the actual coverage from the fighting organization. It's absolutely insane. So that could definitely be also the reason for this. So would separating, you know, some of the prelims fights from the actual main card fights help? What do you guys think? Is a D-League possible? Would that help the situation at all? Is there not even an issue and I'm just like rambling and ranting? I'm getting too casual. I'm getting too soft. You guys let me know in the comments. What are your thoughts? Are the cards in the event still star-studded? Do you think they've been lackluster as of late? Is this just a symptom of modern day fighting? Like, is this just how the sport is so refined? Everyone is so smart. We have so much tape. It's been around for a while. Is this just, you know, like an ebb and flow and evolution of the game where maybe we're not getting, you know, people are just kind of, I don't want to say lay and pray, but like, we know wrestling is a huge factor. People realize that's a great way to neutralize opponents, to take little damage. You know, it's becoming even more prevalent. Everyone has a great wrestling game. Is it just the evolution of the sport that things seem to kind of not be stagnant, but like there's not as many, you know, Chuck Liddell type knockouts. You know, there's not as many just swinging and banging type fights. Like, people are fighting smarter. People are better at the actual sport. It's got to be tougher to get finishes at this point because people are so well rounded and they're so good defensively on the feet and on the ground. Is it just a symptom of the evolution of the sport? And because of that, because everyone is so good, you know, maybe some of the events have seemed like they haven't been as star-studded just because we don't have, you know, people rolling in with like 4 knockout streaks. I don't know. But again, let me know in the comments what you think about all these topics today. And this is the Car Files from the Toyota, headed to work. Hope y'all have a good week. See ya.